Okay, so the whole reason we're getting together tonight is so you guys, I do want to basically go through the instructions and the rubric, which of course you already have on Moodle under Module 1, Semester Resources. But if you have any specific questions, maybe you went over the instructions in the rubric already and something you're just like, this makes no sense, please tell me what the heck you want, woman. Okay, so let's just start going through this. And if you have a question as I'm going through, just go ahead and holler out. And Jacqueline, if you have a question and I see you don't have your mic enabled, that's totally fine. You can just, over in the chat bar on the right side of the screen, go ahead and just type in a question and I'll stop and answer. All right, any questions before we get started? Well, okay. Any?
No, I don't have any.
Okay, all right, let's go. All right, so basically, like I said, this is all straight from the instructions, but I put it in PowerPoint format just so it'd be a little easier for us to deal with in this format. What the virtual child paper is all about. I want you to tell the story, not just of your child's life, okay? You need to tell the story of their development. So everything we've been talking about in class, the physical development, the cognitive development, the emotional, the social, you're going to tie in your child's life, your child's development to the stuff that we've been not listening to the stuff we've been learning all throughout the last 5-6 weeks of this course. Okay, if you only, and I mentioned this several times, if you only summarize the simulation, you will fail this paper. That is not what I want. We want you to let us know, and by us I mean psych teachers, that you are really getting what we're talking about in this course. Everything that the textbook is mentioning, all of these concepts, all of these theories that we've been talking about, and a lot of them are listed in the bullet point at the bottom of this slide. Bronfenbrenner, Bowlby, Ainsworth, Erickson, Piaget, Vygotsky, Skinner, Kohlberg, Marcia, Bandura. These need to show up in your paper. It is absolutely imperative. Okay, a whole 20 points of your paper is going to be, did you list the theories and the theorists in this bullet point? And did you give me enough of them? 20 points out of your whole score. So really pay attention to this. Okay, also, you need to describe how your child was influenced both by nature and nurture. So the whole nature versus nurture controversy that we talked about at the beginning, tell how the genetics influenced how your virtual child turned out and their environment, whether it's your home, your parenting style, their school, their family situation, anything like that. Okay? Are you with me so far?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Jacqueline, Taylor, we good?
Yeah.
Okie dokie. All right, so that the content of your paper, you do not have to address every single one of these, but I recommend that you address most of them. Okay, so your kid's personality. This could be anything, their shyness, their attention to detail, the fact that they love music, anything like that can fall under personality characteristics. Their APGAR score. This, some simulations will give you an APGAR score, some will not. No problem. It's not if you leave out the APGAR score, oh, you just lost 10 points. It's not like that. But if your child, this is what I recommend, if your child had a normal birth and everything was fine, okay, feel free to address in your paper, even though the simulation did not give me a specific APGAR score, since my child had no difficulties in labor and they came out a well-functioning newborn, I can assume that her APGAR score was between 8 and 10. Okay, what you did right there, you basically told me, I know exactly what the APGAR score is for, and here's how I know. Okay, that's exactly the type of thing I'm looking for in the entire paper. Show me that you understand the psychological concepts. Okay, other things that you can address: activity level, temperament. Now, this temperament is not the same as personality characteristics. When we're talking about, whoops, sorry, I just totally botched that. When we're talking about temperament style, that has to be the easy, the slow to warm up, or the difficult temperament. Those are those enduring characteristics. Personality characteristics, not the exact same thing. All right, so if, for example, you get those mixed up and you start talking about your child's temperament is shy or detail-oriented, you're going to lose points because that's not what temperament is. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay. Everyone else? Okay. All right. Attachment style, that's another great thing. That would actually be a super thing for you to address in your paper. Specifically, like the strange situation attachment styles. So secure, avoidant, ambivalent, disorganized, disoriented, any of those that we learned about earlier, I guarantee that showed up in the simulation. For goodness sake, stick it in your paper. Okay, other ones, their overall physical and mental health, and you can do this in the different stages that they go through. Physical ability, types of play. If you remember, we did the, I had y'all observe preschoolers back when we were in early childhood. Feel free to throw some of those in there. Gender development, peer relations. Okay, so now we're getting into a lot of the social development issues, social learning, discipline, your parenting styles. How did you use classical or operant conditioning in raising your child? Scaffolding, Vygotsky's scaffolding. Did you, and I guarantee you did, but maybe give some examples of how you used scaffolding in helping teach your child how to do something. Your child couldn't do it by themselves. You stepped in, you employed scaffolding, and you helped them complete the task. And then later they were able to do it on their own. Okay. Daycare, how did that affect your child? Academic ability, when we're talking about that cognitive development, be sure you hit Piaget and his 4 stages. Vygotsky, definitely it would be a good idea to pull some of his stuff in. Okay, any questions?
Not at the moment.
Okay, okay. All right. And still on that list of things that you can address, Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences. I highly recommend that you put these, or however many your child actually had, go ahead and put those in there. Also, musical ability. This is an example of what you can do in your paper. If they have that musical intelligence, according to Gardner, do you think it had to do with genetics or nature side, or do you think it came from the environment, the nurture component? Self-awareness. So when were they actually able to recognize, oh, hey, look, that's actually me in the mirror that I'm seeing? Self-control, self-regulation, any of that, feel free. Again, please, please, please do not feel like you have to address every single one of these things, or you are going to end up with like a 20-page paper and I'm going to end up hating my life. Okay? All right. Question?
No.
Okay, sorry. I saw the little microphone light up and I was just like, oh my goodness, did I cut someone off? All right. Some other things that you can talk about. Again, You don't have to hit every single one of these in super depth, but if you're struggling to reach your 6 pages, and there's no way you will be struggling to reach your 6 pages if you are hitting a lot of this. Anyway, read over some of these and maybe it'll be like, oh, I didn't talk about that yet. Did your child turn out the way you thought they would? You know, how did you think they were going to turn out? Did you think they were going to be just like you? Did you think that they were, you know, you were going to put in this little formula of how to create the perfect child, and then out pops, da-da, your child? Well, that's not how that works, unfortunately. Environmental variables. How are some of these things in your life and your child's life affecting the way that they develop? Factors outside of your control. Oh, you lost your job. Oh, you know, you have this genetic inheritance from your parents. How did these different issues affect the way your kid developed? Already talked about temperament, goodness of fit. Oh, I would love for you guys to talk about goodness of fit. That was in case you need a refresher, goodness of fit is trying to have the child's environment line up or fit well with your child's temperament. If they have a difficult temperament, they struggle with new situations, maybe trying to ease them into new situations instead of just, you know, that's kind of the idea. Child-rearing style. This is that authoritarian, authoritative, permissive, or uninvolved. Mention whatever your child-rearing style was and give some examples of it. Again, it's not going to be enough for you to just say, oh, I was authoritative. If you don't give me any examples, remember, the big picture is I need to know that you know what in the world you're talking about. So give me more examples rather than fewer. The more you give me, the better I can gauge how much you got out of this class. Okay, we already talked about attachment, so feel free, there's some other questions to kind of get your creative juices pumping there. These last two are definitely optional, but it sure would be nice for you to throw in there. Briefly describe 2 things that you're proud of regarding your child. They could be in any of the components. They could be physically, you're proud of this. Cognitively, you're proud of this. Oh, my kid got a scholarship. Oh, they're, you know, social or emotional. They're a very kind, caring, you know, altruistic person. Anything like that, feel free to throw it in there. And then, of course, go back to nature versus nurture. Which one do you think was responsible for this specific trait that you are proud of in your child? And I would love for you to put in your reaction to the project, the simulation, how you thought your child turned out, anything that you want to tell me that would help me in the future with future classes. That would be super awesome. Okay. Any questions before I move on to the important notes? I'm going to take that as everything is great. Okay, no news is good news, right? Okay, I mentioned this at the beginning, cannot be overstated. You have to write more than a summary of the simulation. If this is all you put in your paper, you will not pass. The end. Well, not the end, but that's really, really ridiculously important. And this is also very important for me to get across. You are not graded at all on how well your kid turned out. Oh, they turned out they're in jail and they're a drug dealer. That's okay. That's not actually showing up anywhere on the rubric. Okay, this is not a judgmental, oh, you didn't pick the right answer on question number 43. That was the turning point. No, it's not about that. This is all about, do you understand the stuff we've been talking about? If you do, we're good. Okay? All right, now we're getting to the boring stuff. Formatting, gotta be done. Okay, this, I'm just gonna skim this. All of this is straight on the instructions. Just go back, double check, make sure you're not missing something. Obviously, name, course section, date, number of words, title, yes, blah, 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 spelling, grammar check. As far as be sure that you are either using Microsoft Word, which is preferable. You can get that through the student email. Or if you're using another word processing program, be sure you save it as an RTF. That's rich text format. That helps me, whatever computer I'm on, it can go ahead and open it right up, no problems. When it says Times New Roman 12 font, I'm not strictly holding to it has to be Times New Roman, but the idea is give me something boring, okay? Calibri, which is the default for Microsoft Word, Times New Roman, Arial, anything that is boring and not going to give me eye strain, because yes, after I've graded 40 of these papers, especially if they're really long, my eyes kind of start to glaze over and I get headaches. So just be kind, give me a boring font and size, something nice and readable, 11 or 12, and I'm a happy girl. Minimum of 6 double-spaced pages. You're probably going to get more than that. And I strongly recommend that you get more than that. If you have trouble making the 6, you may or may not do well on this paper. So really be sure you're getting good stuff in there. I did have an email about this just in the last couple days. I do not care which formatting style you use for the paper. As long as you are citing sources and using sources, even if it's just the textbook, that's fine. But that is one of the components of the rubric, is that you are using outside sources. So definitely do that, and then just make sure you are citing them. MLA, APA, even like Turabian or something, I'm totally cool with it. Just cite, and we're good. Okay. This is the last actual slide, because the next thing I'm going to do is pull up the rubric itself. And I can't overstate this enough either. Follow the rubric. Have it like printed out beside you on the table as you are writing your paper, and go back over that rubric before you hit submit. Do it, do it, do it, because if you don't, you will miss something. And if you don't follow the rubric, there's a really good chance you're going to fail the paper. If you fail the paper, most likely you will fail this course, and then you just wasted the whole semester. And so, what's the good of that, right?
One quick note, just looking at the rubric in the formatting section of the Word document, you may want to change that from the minimum of 3 double-spaced pages to a minimum of 6.
Yes. I realized this afternoon that I had uploaded the wrong document. I had updated one and it was on my OneDrive, and then I can't put things on Moodle straight from OneDrive. I have to do it from the computer itself, and I uploaded the wrong one. I am terribly sorry about that. I will change that ASAP.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I've ended up, even when I went over the instructions and said the 3 pages, I was just like, definitely don't give me 3 pages, because if you give me 3 pages, you will fail this paper. So, yeah, the 6 pages is definitely what you want to go with. Okay?
Got it, thanks.
No problem. Anything else? Jacqueline, Taylor?
I do have one question.
Sure.
Is there a requirement for how many sources we do need, or is just one, like the book, okay?
That is totally fine. If you just use the textbook, I'm good with that.
Because I didn't know if you needed like 3 minimum. I was looking at the rubric today and I couldn't see it, so I was just asking.
No, that's a great question. Excellent question. For the end of the semester paper, yes, you're going to need more sources, but for this, the My Virtual Child simulation itself is like your main course, your main source. That's what I was trying to get at. So textbook, totally great. But I will say this, be sure you use in-text citations. Don't just put the references page with the textbook. do the in-text citations. If you don't, you're going to end up losing points on the rubric. Okay? Anything else?
Not right now.
Okie dokie. I'm trying to upload the rubric. Okay, and there it is. Sorry that this is small. Let me, well, and then I can't, like I said, I'm kind of new to this, so some of this stuff I'm not sure how to make it work. Okay. So the rubric itself. Oh, big deal, guys. Now the good news, all right, see up here where we've got the grammar and the mechanics, the most that you can lose by having horrible grammar is going to be 4. Okay, so no, I will not, just totally kill you on that. But if you have really horrible grammar, that's going to make it very difficult for me to understand. And then that's going to affect the clarity. It's also going to affect, let's see, flow and organization. So even though, don't be misled by the fact that I can only take off 4 points for grammar, because grammar definitely influences all of these other areas too. Okay. One of the biggest ones, identifiable terms / concepts in bold font. Please put them in bold font. Every semester I get about 2 or 3 of my students that actually do that, and the rest of them don't. Please give me bold font. That would make me ridiculously happy. And before you submit that paper, count all of your bold font concepts and terms. Okay, this could be secure attachment, tertiary circular reactions, musical intelligence. Anything like that can count as a term or concept. Okay, you cannot count the same one twice. So just because you said secure attachment and bolded it twice does not mean that counts as. Here on the rubric, I'm counting. If you've got at least 20, there you go. You get that 20 points under terms and concepts. Okay, so big deal, really big deal. Another big deal, I'm going to kind of jump down real quick. I'll go back up, but this is really important. 6 or more theories / theorists. A lot of this, just make sure you've got enough, because when I go through and I'm grading your paper, I am counting these things. Again, just because you put Piaget's name down 13 times, sorry, it's still just one theorist. Okay? Okay, now back up a little bit. Appropriateness of examples. This is where, if you are a little bit off, okay, again, this kind of ends up being counted. If you've got 1 or 2 examples that are just not quite, you're close, you're so darn close, but that's just not exactly what, difficult temperament really looks like. Okay, then you're going to get this grade in here, which is the 15 out of 20. All right, that's like if you have 1 or 2 that are just not quite right. If you have any more than that, you're going to get this. If you've just got a lot, or you don't even give examples and you are just very, very shallow in everything you do, I can promise you're going to be getting the 5 out of 20. And actually, that's if you're lucky, because if it's really, really bad, I can just give you 0. I try not to do that, and most of the time I don't have any that are just really super bad, and it kind of breaks my heart, so please don't do that. Okay, ages and stages. This is a big one. You do not have to tell me about every month of your child's life. Okay, but within the first year, go ahead and give me, probably 3 or 4, different ages in that first year. And then, maybe year 1, year 2, year 3, 4, 5, maybe hit all of those. Then you can kind of do every couple years. And then, as you've noticed, by the time you get to the teenage years of the simulation, you know, years anyway, that's fine. Just make sure. Okay, everybody's still with me?
Yes, we are.
Okay, had some connectivity problems for some reason. Okay. So just make sure that all of those ages are there. If you do not finish the simulation, then yeah, this is where you're going to lose points. But if you don't finish the simulation, do not try to make stuff up. Okay, I have seen every variation of this simulation, and if you start making stuff up, I'm going to know that you made stuff up, and you are going to lose serious points for trying to snow me. So don't even do it. All right, and then the flow and organization. Basically, just make sure it's not choppy. If you want to start, during labor and delivery, and then just go chronologically, I am totally fine with that. And then maybe do like a summary at the end, a paragraph or two, reflecting. I'm totally fine with that. Flow and organization, good job. Okay. And for citations, this is where you need to use that outside source and you need to actually cite the information in the text. Okay. That is it for the rubric. What questions do you guys have for me?
I don't have any. I think that was pretty clear.
Okay, great.
So,
okay.
I went ahead and like pretty much finished my paper.
Oh, awesome.
And I did it how kind of like you just said for the flow and organization. Like I summarized from birth to 18, and then like in 2 or 3 paragraphs I added all the theorists and like all that stuff. Is that fine?
Okay, so the theorists didn't show up in your paper, they only showed up at the end?
No, they did, but I had more of the information towards the end.
Okay. As long as the theorists and the concepts show up within the meat of the paper, as long as they show up in the paper, yes, I will be counting, but they're going to end up, if they only show up at the end, and Taylor, I'm not specifically talking to you, but for anybody who might have this question and they're watching the recording later, I'm just kind of throwing this in there. You need to have it woven into the paper, because the more you apply the stuff we've been learning to the simulation and say, this is an example of Piaget's sensory motor stage, if the more you tie this stuff in blatantly, the more I know that you know what you're talking about. So the more you do that, the better your grade's going to end up being. Unless you learned absolutely nothing in the whole course, and then we're all kind of screwed. Okay?
Okay.
Anything else? Okay. Well, Brian.
No, I'm good. I was just going to say, no, I'm good.
Okay. All right. Well, for the very first one of these that I've ever done, I think it went okay. If y'all want to, email me and say, hey, I didn't want to say this on the recording, but, feel free to give me any feedback. I'd love to make this better in the future for future classes. Thank you guys so much for actually taking the time to do this. And email me if you have any questions whatsoever. And good luck.
Thank you very much for taking the time to explain this to us.
Oh, you are very, very welcome.
Thank you so much.
Oh, good. I hope so. Good. All right. See you guys.
All right,
Right,
take
bye.
care. Bye.
Bye.